All right, everybody. Welcome on in to NorCal Sports Network. We are here tonight, Giants postgame, and we will have Cody B with us. He's in the green room putting some videos together, and we will have him join us shortly to talk Giants baseball along with some of the standouts in the minor leagues. So welcome on in, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we appreciate you being here. We're heard here on YouTube, Twitter, or X now, formerly Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, what else? TikTok, all the different social media avenues you can catch us. So make sure you give us a like. That would be greatly appreciated. We appreciate you giving this show a like as it pushes it out more to more people, helps the channel grow. So please do that for us. We would be very grateful. So, Lou, what do you think? What do you think tonight? The Giants won surprisingly. They beat the Orioles a second time in a row, and you got to give them credit. They're coming up with some key hits.
Yeah, I was shocked myself. I kept thinking Baltimore was going to come back, but boy, they are in a funk, Baltimore. They remind me of the Giants. This is how the Giants played. They were 2 for 10 running scoring position. They had so many chances, couldn't put the bat on the ball. But, I'm going to give the Giants a lot of credit. Tonight, for the first time since Dan Gladden, we saw our leadoff hitter hit a home run. For a lot of people in the chat, you guys probably don't even know who Dan Gladden is. He was a great Giant. Unfortunately, we lost him to free agency, and he went to Minnesota for the Twinkies. But a great player. And
was it free agency or did they trade him? I think they traded him, didn't they?
Maybe, but I thought they traded him at the trade deadline because he wasn't going to come back when we were cheap.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I just want you guys to point out, the Giants magic number, of course, even though they won, drops another game
because the Mets won.
So we're going to have to take care of the tragic number. But the good thing today is the Giants did show a little fight. I don't know where it's been all season. It could be tomorrow. They're going to be eliminated from the playoffs. But I think the key thing is you got to give the young guys who, you got to remember, Yaz is battling for a contract. He doesn't have a contract next year. So the Giants, he's going to do it. But I want to make sure the Giants front office and the chat, this is not the team we want for next year. They're showing up now, but again, it doesn't mean anything. It's sort of like Crapman when he gets a hit when it doesn't matter. Okay? These games, we'll see what they do in the next 9 games. Knowing the Giants, Dan, they'll probably win tomorrow and win 7 in a row. And people go, oh, my God, we were so close if it wasn't for injuries. But I want to get people back to reality. This team is not that good. We are going to be below 500. And, we just got to face reality. They're facing the team down. They're taking care of business. But, that doesn't really impress me much. They're going against their 4th and 5th best pitchers. And tomorrow, we have Webb. I'm sort of surprised Robert's not here to tell us that it's a guaranteed win with Webb, but we all know reality. So, but hey, it was good to see them. They won 2 in a row. So we'll just see how it looks.
Yes, for sure. And I'm looking at the scores here. I'm trying to see, did the Braves play tonight?
Yeah, the Braves won 2. They beat the Reds.
Okay. Why? Oh, there it is. Okay, wait.
There's only 1 game left, Seattle and the Yankees. It's 1-0 in the 6th.
Okay, yeah. So what was hold on. I hate that when I'm looking at ESPN. Let me just, I got so many things going with, I got to pull this up here. ESPN, Major League Baseball scores. Okay. Seems like when I'm looking for, there it is. Braves won. Okay, 7-1. Okay. So yeah, why don't we do this, Lou? While we're let's take a look at the tragic numbers.
Yeah, so we eliminate another one.
So the Giants are down to it's down to 1. Right? It's down to 1.
Down to 1.
So a Giant loss or a win by the Braves,
the Mets,
the Mets, it's over. Well, I guess more the Mets.
Yeah, they'll be back.
Yep.
And tomorrow's an early game.
Right.
10 o'clock local. So we're down to a half game.
Yeah. So if they lose tomorrow, the season is over as far as mathematically, but they were done a month ago.
Yep.
So this is just a nail in the coffin getting closer.
We have 4 nails in the coffin. It's 7 to close it shut.
Speaking of nails in the coffin, with a few nails in the coffin, I think maybe we're getting closer to Farhan getting nails in the coffin. What do you think?
I mean, there's more rumblings.
Too many.
And let me put it this way. If they bring him back, there's a big problem.
Yes.
Because there's 90% of America. They were even talking about it on the Mad Dog show today, saying that somebody called in and they said, hey, they're hearing rumblings that Farhan might be out. Mad Dog, would you be interested in being the GM? Sort of as a joke. But now that, it's just not a couple of these local reporters. It's now all over. 98.5, KBR's talking about it. The Athletic, the Democrat. There's so many different things. So I think out of 100, it's probably about, I'd say 89 to 92% sure he won't be coming back.
Yeah, I think it's probably plus 95. There's too many articles and talk, all leaked by the Giants, by the way, to get that out there. There's no way, and we bring in Cody B to the show. Welcome, Cody. Got your mic muted there, but this is all leaked by the Giants for purposes of making it a softer blow when they let him go, or when they reposition him somewhere in the organization. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter if the Giants, what do they got? They've won 2 in a row. They've got 10 games left. I think even if they won all 10, the decision's been made.
Yeah.
Yep. Hopefully.
Yeah. And there's just, if they bring him back, it's just everybody's going to be talking about, he's not signed. I mean, he's a lame duck season. It's a disaster for the organization to have your GM who's, had 5 unproductive seasons out of 6, and he's on his final year. And you don't want that hanging over the organization being talked about, and they get off to any kind of start, anything that goes wrong. It's going to be, the focus is going to be on what's going on with Farhan. So it's crazy. So I think he's done. The question becomes, who are they going to hire? I just hope they hire somebody who's a baseball man, not a analytics, guru. We talked about a little bit the last night about Billy Owens from the Oakland A's is a possibility.
Dan, I have a question. I thought of this situation today. Could it be like when the 49ers tried to get a coach, you can't really say anything till he is actually eliminated? Do you think maybe they're after a GM that actually is going to be in the playoffs? That might be a free agent. Maybe we haven't thought about that. Where, you really can't go after a GM if they're in the play. You know what I mean? Sort of how the NFL. Wait until they're eliminated. We haven't thought about that, but I thought of that today.
Well, I don't think they'd be going after a top guy, a Pobo that might be.
But I'm thinking someone like
maybe who's somebody who's a GM assistant, but who who's in Pete Patulia's position somewhere, they could go after that person because it would be a raise, like a promotion. So, but knowing the Giants,
they'll go cheap.
yeah. I mean,
well, here's my question.
What's your question, Cody?
Would you be opposed to Patilla?
Yes,
because I actually like Patilla a lot.
I don't care for his. He might be underneath the radar type of guy that has some talent as far as, the only thing I met him a couple times. Mm-hmm. The only thing I would say about him, and this might be a poor judgment. It was my first greeting was he didn't seem like a fireballer. He seemed like a real passive, nice guy, super, very nice guy. Had a nice talk with him. He just didn't strike me as a guy that had a lot of confidence in he probably is very good behind the scenes with the game, but people person as far as dealing with agents, negotiations, players, I didn't get that confident feeling like when I talked to a Ned Colletti or, I haven't met Brian Sabian, but when I hear Brian talk or when I hear some of the other executives talk that are like, you better be a go-getter or you're going to get eaten alive in this business. You better know what you're looking for. You better, my plan is this, is bring Brian Sabian and Ned Colletti back together, a reunion of sorts, give them a 2-year deal. They're a little bit older. They probably don't want to be doing it for the rest of their lives. Give them a 2-year deal. Let them hire the people they know in the game. They've got lots of contacts, and let them interview some of the younger executives. Get the best scouts in the game, get the best player personnel directors in the game, and then let them hire a underling executive working alongside them for the 2 years. And in 2 years, it's a seamless transition, and the organization is restructured the right way. You won with these guys. They're proven. Let them bring in the right people and turn the organization over to them. They care deeply about the organization. I know Ned personally loves the team, and he loves the fans. He loves the city, and he is very strong at negotiations. I mean, he's a sharp guy, and him and Brian, we've heard stories of those guys working until 3 a.m. after a loss, talking about what do we got to do, brainstorming, pissed off that they lost, and they're brainstorming and trying to figure a way to. I'll tell you, you get two heads working together that know the game well, it's powerful because you can play off each other. No, I don't like that idea. I don't think he's the right guy. I think that works very well. So that would be, I think, the perfect plan for the Giants because they know the division, they know the Dodgers, they know the Giants organization, they know the people. Ned knows the Dodgers organization inside out. You can probably pluck a few guys from the Dodgers organization away and get them that might, want to move up in the ranks of the baseball world. I think that would be a really, really good move, guys. Now, are the Giants thinking like that? I have no idea, and I wouldn't be surprised if they are not thinking that way. But I think it would be a win-win. And I just wish someone in the Giants would reach out to Brian and Ned and work it out. And I think they could work with Bo Mel, if the Giants wanted to keep Bo Mel. I think Bo Mel would be much happier working under a situation like that with baseball people. I think there's a level of frustration with Bo Mel, with Farhan. Remember when Farhan was with Oakland and you say, oh, they work together. Farhan was much further down the line of the pecking order in the front office. He was a chart guy that charted where guys hit. He was the analytics guy that, kind of designed those cards that people pull out of their pocket and say, okay, 2 strikes, this guy, goes this way. That's why you guys see their guys looking at their card each pitch. Oh, let's move over here. It's all laid out. That's what Farhan designed. He was the brainchild, one of the originators behind this whole movement. What happened in, really it took place probably 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago.
Moneyball.
Yeah, it started, and the A's were the pioneers of it. Farhan never was, anything more than that. I don't even know what his title is. We've played it before. And then the Dodgers picked him up to become kind of like an assistant to Andrew Friedman. And, he learned a little bit and he came here, and I think he found out that running the full operation is more than he could bite off. I mean, Farhan has a place. He's a smart guy. I'm not telling you he's horrible for the game. He's just in a position that I think is beyond what his expertise is. I think he's probably best as an assistant type guy, that he can give you the information that you can assimilate and use. But when he's a dictator at the top telling you, you got to play Derek Hill today because I called him up. Bob Melvin's not putting Derek Hill in the lineup. Bob Melvin's not playing Donovan Walton over Marco Luciano. I mean, Bob Melvin's been around long enough to know you got to give these guys a chance to see what they can do. And playing Donovan Walton right now is a joke. And nothing against Donovan Walton, but he's not going to be the guy next year. If he is, you might finish below Colorado, because Donovan Walton is a utility guy that can fill in when there's injuries. If he makes the squad, he's the 25th, 26th man. He's not he's not a starting player. And that's the problem. They got these guys, they drafted high, Luciano, Matos. They paid him, tons of money to sign him, and they haven't given him a shot to just, what? We know they're going to fail a lot. But you know what? This is the type of team that you learn to fail on. It really is. So, I just think it's something they've got to make a total change on. What's your thoughts on this, Cody? I mean, you've been seeing this for as long as I have.
Yeah. No, and I've been seeing some of the chats, and I know some people don't really want to go the analytics route. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the direction of the game today. It's gonna, no matter who you pull from, like whether we pull from Houston, LA, from Baltimore, any of these organizations nowadays, it's going to be an analytics minded thing. And you can speak to Pete's personality more than I can. All I can get is based off what I've seen, like in interviews and listening to him talk. The one thing I really like about Patilla is I get the impression that, number one, he's way better of an evaluator, especially in younger players. Number two,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the impression that he is really a lot more aggressive than a guy like Farhan is, because the reason I say this is, look at the 4 years Scott Harris was here. Guys got left in the minors. They'd sit in a level for an entire year. No matter how well they played, they would just rot all year.
Right.
As soon as Patilla shows up last season, player movement in the minors went nuts. Like last season and this season, they've been promoting people super aggressively. And last season, Patilla talked about how he was going around at each affiliate. He'd spend like a week at a time at each affiliate evaluating the guys there. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the second he shows up, guys start getting moved much more aggressively. And then the
That's
other
a good
thing
point.
I know he was a lot more involved in was the Lee pursuit, which they were able to close the deal on that. So I don't know all the back stuff on that. I do feel like with the history in Houston and then what I've seen in the 2 years and the stuff that he's been pretty clearly involved in, I like the last two drafts. Their philosophy has shifted the last two drafts where they've gone a lot more for tools, a lot more higher upside players. They're taking the proverbial swing for the fences on some of these prospects. And they weren't doing that the first couple of years under Farhan. So I like the way some of the things that I know he's involved in have gone. But like you said, if he's not going to be an aggressive, because I think Farhan's biggest issue has been just he's so risk averse on everything.
Everything's safe.
Everything.
Yes. Everything's
Even
safe.
getting Melvin as a manager, it was a safe hire.
Exactly. So I don't think his, the analytics and stuff like that, like I don't think that's necessarily the issue because you see the success it has in LA and Baltimore and all these different places in Houston. I think you just need a much more aggressive, GM. And I don't know if Patilla would be or not. The way I see him operate the minors, I get the impression he might be, but I wouldn't dislike that hire. I actually like Pete. But he like you were talking, he might be a guy that's better suited in like a Farhan, like Farhan, where he's better being a number two than he is running.
Yeah, and I don't want to judge. I don't want to misjudge him to his fairness. It was just a brief look. I talked to him for 2 minutes, handshake type deal. I observed him at the winter meetings. He just, seemed like, he was outside talking for a few hours while the meetings were going on. I was thinking, what is he actually doing? I mean, it was his first year. This was in 22, by the way, not last year. The going into the 23 season. So it was 2 years ago in San Diego. I was there at the winter meetings. I would just say he just struck me as a guy that seemed very shy. But you know what? That was just one meeting. So it's possible that a guy like him could be, yeah, exactly. The handshake tells you a lot about it. I thought it was very like a fishy type handshake. Like, it was just like, oh, wow. He didn't grab my hand. It was just like, I was like, I don't know. That's me. That's kind of my own, what I use to, my first impression, like a lot of people I've heard on interviews. I've been told in interviews by managers that I became a manager myself, but told guys when I got hired, but what was it? One guy's like, I like your handshake. Another guy, oh, I like your shoes. They look at your shoes. When you go in for a job interview in the white collar world, if you're wearing sloppy shoes, you got a suit on and you got crappy shoes on, it doesn't show for that guy. And ever since he told me that, I was like, I look at everybody's shoes when I interviewed guys, because I thought if somebody can't afford a good pair of shoes, maybe they're not that much of a go-getter in sales. So anyway, that was just me.
I mean, I know listening to, and again, you saw this behind the scenes and stuff, but like I know listening to guys like I know listening to a guy like Bobby Evans, he always kind of came across as a bit quiet, and I don't know. Again, behind the scenes, they might be totally different. And if he's got the guts to pull the trigger on stuff, Bobby clearly did. He made some bold moves.
He did. Bobby made some bold moves.
Yeah, if Pete has the guts to actually pull the trigger and take the risks, then I could care less if he's, a little awkward or whatever with the media. I don't care. I just want results at the end of the day.
Right. That's all that matters. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That could be the case. Very, very much so. So, but so why don't we get into? You got any other thoughts on this, Lou?
No, I was going to ask Cody. Cody, I've seen you on the air. I've never been on the air with you, so hello. And I think you do a great job And I think we're very lucky to have you because throughout the year, you were the ones that told us what we had to look forward to. So thank you. My question is, because we brought this up last night, about Billy Owens. I know he's based in Sacramento. You being with the AAA, have you heard anything? Do you know any information about him?
I don't. I'm actually I live out of state, so
Okay.
I watch a lot of the minor league games and things like that, and I try and keep my ears out for the little nuggets that get dropped here and there.
Sure.
But no, I unfortunately I don't.
Okay. And obviously, they're all talking about the Wonder Boy. I mean, I think the one thing about the Giants is they're almost putting all the eggs in one basket. The guy hasn't played one day a meaning ball in AAA because AAA right now is not important. It's just so he can get his reps. He's not in the major league. I mean, this guy, if he is just an average player, and you remember, we've had other guys. We've heard about Van Braun, all these studs. I mean, look at some of our guys that are up now that aren't making it. What happens if Wonder Boy isn't like a Chris Spire or a Bonds when he comes up? I mean, they're putting this guy on a pedestal this is more than Buster when we drafted Buster right now.
Yeah, and that's a stretch to me. Now, granted, I think the one thing people need to keep in mind, because I know a lot of people have looked at his numbers and they're like, well, Posey was putting up like a 350 average. And I'm like, Posey was 3 years older when he played his one full minor league
Correct.
season.
I think age is a big thing.
He's 19 years old and he just ripped through every level and didn't look overwhelmed at any of them.
Yeah.
If he's not as good, I sent a text out today. I was like, if this guy ends up falling on his face, I think my spirit's going to be irreparably crushed.
I mean, the Giants will probably lose another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Because how are we gonna have faith in anything? Because I mean, they're putting this guy on like, I mean, it's I mean, I've never heard of so much hype. And probably I'm a little bit older than you, probably since like Griffey Jr. coming up. I mean, how they did with Seattle. Let me put it that way, not with the Giants. I mean, this is like incredible where, my God, Elridge, the boy wonder. I mean, they're probably already selling jerseys. They're thinking next year, Giants, nothing like it. But we also got to remember about our history. Over the last, except for Buster, I've just never heard, and except the kid's 19, give the guy a break.
Exactly.
He's probably used to playing a lot of ball, but it's a lot different when you're a professional. He signed a huge deal, over $3 million. So he's going, but give the guy a chance. Let the guy tell you when he's ready, not that the Giants are forcing him. Because we all know once you go to the major leagues, it's completely different.
Yeah, I heard Alex Pavlovic last night. They talked about the fact that, he's going to finish up this week in Sacramento and get ready for the Arizona Fall League. And he mentioned something. I thought it was interesting the way he said it. He said, we don't want to rush him to the point. And I agreed with what he was saying. You don't want to push him just so that you can have maybe a feather in someone's cap. I thought that was interesting how we all knew who that was toward, right? As everything starts coming out, everybody starts piling on. Yeah. So it was a little shot, I thought, but I don't think they should be rushing him. What do you think, Cody? You think he starts next year at AA and then quickly moves up to AAA if he masters AA?
I think Eldridge is going to get a major league invite in spring.
I do too.
And I think there's a non-zero chance that he's the opening day first baseman. I think if he is that good in spring training, I don't think they will hesitate. He's going to face a lot of major league pitching in spring training. Now they're working on their stuff, whatever. And if they do, I would just advise everybody to have patience, because as great as I think he's going to be, he's 20. He'll be 20 years old and had not 100 at bats in the upper levels.
Do you see a scenario? Well, he'll be 20 next year. where he has a good spring and they do the Jackson Churio treatment, give him the 8-year contract or 10-year.
The contract?
Yeah, the contract and everything.
I mean, I think
it's not the Giants.
If you have that much faith, if you have the faith in him, and I mean, it can be a very, it can pay off a lot. It can pay a lot of dividends if you do that, because the Brewers aren't feeling like they're feeling good about that right now.
Yeah.
The Braves loved it when they did it with Acuna, and I think they did it with Albies and a few of their other guys as well.
Yep, they did it with Riley,
Albies.
Yeah, it can pay huge dividends. I think didn't the D-backs did it with Carroll as well.
Yeah.
But it's a risk, obviously. And I will say it's kind of what Lou was saying earlier. I've watched a ton of minor league ball in the last decade or so, and Eldridge is, sometimes you watch a player and you can just go, that guy's different. That's how I felt.
Well, let's take a look at him. Let's take a look at him.
Yeah, this was just this was his triple he hit this was like early last week. This is the only highlight I had clipped from last week, but that thing was like 110 miles an hour off the bat. And this is a guy with 80 grade raw power. Now his game power, I think they rated it like a 60.
Let's watch that again.
They might reevaluate that. I mean, you can just see this thing looks like it's picking up speed. Look at that route the center fielder takes. I mean, this guy thinks it's going to just kind of drop in there, and about halfway to him, he goes, "Oh God."
Yeah. So. And he's 6'7". Some people think he looks more like 6'8". Who would you compare his swing to? Is it more like Bryce Harper? Or
that's what he compares himself to. I remember watching it last season, and not his stance, because Clark was a lot more closed off, but I remember watching a few swings in the complex league last year, and I just remember thinking was through the ball and his follow through. He just reminded me a lot of Will, but his stance, it's probably more Harper-ish.
Okay.
Than anybody.
So the one thing they always say about Ohtani is the ball comes off his bat different. Yeah. Is it the same with him? If you've seen him hit, like you can just tell.
I haven't gotten to see it live yet, unfortunately. I didn't have the chance when I always had stuff going on up here when he was in the Northwest
I'm a little bit worried too, being young. I know they're going to put weight on him, but he's 6'7". Yeah. He still, needs to get bigger. Also, the one thing too is I don't know how Double-A is. I don't know how many games there are. I know it's not single A, but when you come up here, 162 games. That's literally almost 2, maybe 3 seasons down there. So
I think it's 138.
I think what might be, it depends. I know they don't really have a first baseman on their roster that is really something to get excited about. So the fact that, is he playing first right now? Is that where they have him? Okay.
Yeah. He's developing.
He'll be in the fall league, so I'll check him out. I'll get a chance to see him play 2 or 3 games or more.
Yeah, Dan, you're going to have to do that before you go to the winter meetings in Dallas in December.
Yeah. So I will definitely be doing the Bryce Eldridge, watching him, getting some video on him, bringing it onto the show. And I will say this. If he does well in the fall league, because the fall league is a real stepping stone to, getting it's kind of the next step really to guys that they think can make that jump to the big leagues. And depending on how he does, if he tears that up and he just looks like the natural, and he goes into spring training and he's definitely getting that non-roster invite. They're going to give him a good look. And if he's got it, there's no reason to hold him back if he really, but he's really got to have some success in the last 2 weeks of spring training, not the first couple, because that's misleading. the first couple of weeks of spring training, your guys are getting stretched out. You're seeing a lot of younger pitchers. I want to see him when he's facing guys like Yamamoto and Hunter Green, because who else in the from that's here in the on the West?
Ohtani.
Yeah, you might see him facing Ohtani. I'm just thinking of other star pitchers that are in the Cactus League.
Blake
But, you know,
when he leaves us.
Yeah, if he stays in the Cactus League. Yeah, guys like that. I want to see how he stays in there when those guys are not pitching their first game, but their third or fourth game. Okay. I want to see when those guys are stretched out to 5 innings or more. I want to see what he looks like. And if he can hold his own, yeah, maybe you do start him this year or next year in 25 in San Francisco. But if he has if he's not tearing it up, if he's not like showing, hey, this isn't that difficult for me. If he's showing like he's getting fooled with this or that, give him, he could skip AA. That's fine.
Yeah.
Put him in AAA and put him down there with the idea that maybe he comes up in a month or two.
Yeah, I don't want to rush the guy, but I'm also at the point of let his play dictate,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you said. And the thing I've been most impressed with him about is, he went through his struggles just like everybody. He had a few moments at
San Jose.
He had a few moments in San Jose where, because once he got to high A, he just blistered it. But he had a few moments in San Jose where he went through his struggles, but at no point at any level has he ever looked overmatched. Like, even when he, every guy goes through their struggles. Like, every guy's going to go through a cold slump where they're just not hitting, but the quality of at bat never wavers with him. Like, that's the thing that I'm so impressed with. He always just puts together really good at bats. The results just might not be there at times, but that's everybody. And it just like you guys said, it's just a little different coming off his bat, and the all fields power. I think that's the big reason to be so excited with him. We haven't had a lefty that has, that can play an Oracle truly. I mean, Belt could to an extent, but he, a lot of his power went to right center and it killed him.
Right.
Eldridge has hit probably a third of his home runs to left field this season, and they're not cheapies. It's not like, he's playing in a tiny park. Like, he blasts it, and that'll play an Oracle if you can do that. And he can also spin on one. So and I've watched him hit one 460 to center field. It's like this guy he can hit it out to anywhere. It's kind of like when you saw, I think, was it Ohtani that put one like 460 to right center up on the arcade?
Yeah. Should have gone out of the stadium. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just something guys have the power that it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, Cody, I have one question. Say he comes up and he brings, who's going to protect this guy? Not Chapman. That's where the Giants are going to have to do something. But it also comes to the point where we don't really have anything to give up to get somebody that could be a bat to protect him.
The guy I'd be really trying to get is Adames.
Okay,
that's the guy I've been pushing. Yeah,
Adames. I love what he does with runners in scoring position.
Yep.
Which we're dead last. So
109 RBIs the guy's got. 2
of the last 3 seasons, he's hit over 300 with runners in scoring position. And even last season, when he was like 246, he had, I think, an 860 OPS with runners in scoring position. So it's not like he was bad. I think he still drove in 90-ish runs.
He's my number one. He's my number one go-to to get.
If you can put him behind Eldridge, I would. That he's not. He's not a name. Like, he's not a huge name. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not like one of these big guys. It's not like you're protecting him with Soto or some, Kyle Tucker or anything like that. But he is a highly productive player that I think provides legitimate protection behind him.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you've got to go after Willy Adames hard this offseason. I think the other thing you may need to do is go out and make a type of trade if you're not able. I've been looking at it. I mentioned Santander earlier. I'm not interested in Anthony Santander Why? Because he's a low average guy, has power, but he's also having a breakout type season. I don't think he can maintain it. A lot of strikeout there too. So I
would push back on him a little bit, just because if he gives closer to his 2022 to 23 production, you'd be thrilled, because he averaged 30 homers and 32 doubles in 22 and 23. So I don't care about the 40 he's hit this year. Even if you give me that, or 90% of that.
How old is Santander though? How old is he?
He'll be 30. I mean, if you get him on a 3 or 4 year deal,
if he's only going to be 30, yeah. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't no 32 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking for.
And you can get him, but you need to get more contact. Like, you have to balance the lineup out. Like, we can't have.
That's been the problem all season.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can't have 8 guys that are striking out 26+% of the time. Like, I don't mind having a few of these guys, but like, you got to balance it out. But I also look at it, if you can if somehow they could pull both Adames and Santander, I see 5 guys in that lineup that might give you 130 homers between the 5 of them.
Right.
Raises the floor a little bit of the offense. Now they're going to have swing and miss. They got to get contact in the lineup, on top of Lee, whether that's playing Matos more, whether that's going and getting some guys that can, more consistently put the bat on the ball, or whatever the case might be. But it's just, I think I just would push back a little bit, just because I know he was really good both of the last 2 seasons, but ideally he'd be hitting down 6 or 7. Him and Chapman would be like their 6 and 7 hitters, right? Ideally.
Yes. That's what I want to see, is get enough offense where Chapman can be hit down near the 7 hole. So I'm working on a trade for you guys right now. I'll have it ready for you and get your thoughts on it, and see what you guys think of this. So what else you got? Any other questions you got, Lou, for Cody?
I'm good. What I'll do is I'm going to get off the show and I'm just going to listen to Cody and his stuff, and remember, everyone, tomorrow it's a day game, 10 o'clock our time. So tomorrow could be, I don't know if Cody's seen your tragic number, but obviously tomorrow could be.
Have you seen the tragic number?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, there it is. It's sitting at 1.
That means we're completely eliminated from the playoffs.
Well, Matt, officially, we had them officially eliminated a good month ago, but not technically we had them eliminated, but officially they will be eliminated most likely tomorrow. I can't see them sweeping the Orioles, but you never know. Stranger things happen.
The Orioles are, I think I saw 4 and 12 in their last 16.
Yeah.
But in the same time, we got to go to Kansas City, where they're a game up. So it's all about Kansas City. And then, of course, Arizona, still needs to win. So
Right.
Cody, I will get out of here. Cody, keep up the great work. Really, thanks for helping out every couple of weeks. You really helped us out in the farm system, because really out here, we always hear something maybe a week later. We hear more about the San Jose Giants. And, I'd rather get an honest opinion from you than, the homers we have, like Susan and Alex, that think, we're 1 player away of being in the World Series. It's sort of ridiculous. So,
yeah. I mean, even if Bryce is everything we hope and more, we're still probably chasing a 3rd, maybe the 2nd wild card at that point. But like you said, he needs protection.
Yeah. But I really appreciate all your work. Keep up the good work, and thank you for it. And Dan, I will talk to you tomorrow, buddy.
All right. Hey, great, Lowe's. Lou. Thanks, Lou.
No problem.
it. I had Lowe's earlier. I was just finishing up with Lowe's. So, okay. Awesome. So I have put together a trade here, and let me do this. All right. Did I get that done right? Yes. Okay. Let me look at this trade here. Okay. Now, how did I put that in there? I did not put that in there. But you know what? Maybe I'll leave that. Maybe I'll leave that.
Do you want me to talk about any of the other kids while you're whipping that together?
Yeah, why don't we talk about Walker Martin there?
Yeah, so Walker Martin, I mean, the strikeout rate is going to concern a lot of people, and it concerns me for sure. I think he finished San Jose with a near 40% strikeout rate between Complex League and San Jose. He did show some nice power, especially at the end. I think he hit 3 home runs in the last week. You can see the tools. I mean, so unfortunately, that highlight I have there, that was the camera angle they had. It's a rough angle.
Let's
Look
take
where
a
this
look.
thing lands.
I didn't realize he was a lefty hitter.
Yeah. His swing reminds me a lot of Corey Seager.
Yes, I thought that's weird you said that because he had that long sweeping swing.
Yeah, he's the strikeout rate's concerning. There's just no way around it. I mean, that's the big red flag with him. But he's got some huge power, and you can see why. You can see the tools there. You can see why they wanted to get him signed in that as a high schooler out of the second round. I just, I think he's a big fall league candidate. At least I think they should, unless they're going to overhaul his mechanics to try and get the bat on the ball more frequently. I think he just needs reps. Like at the end of the day, like they've got to get this guy playing as much as possible because he missed the end of last season. He missed, the early part of this season. I think he missed several months. I would like to see him get some more play, but unless that strikeout rate goes down, like you can't really do anything with him. So
right.
Wow. George asked where he projects to play on defense. I almost feel like he's going to end up over at third base, but we'll see. They'll try and let him stay at short, but I just think ultimately he gets moved.
Okay.
And senior, we don't know the fall guys yet. I think the only one that anyone's confirmed is Eldridge because they've actually commented directly on that.
Yeah. So. Now we got Velasquez, another shortstop, right?
Yeah. So Diego Velasquez, he hit, I think it was 313 down in Richmond in 170 plate appearances. He just hits. Like that's the best way I can say it. He's not a huge power guy, just hits. And this is the kind of approach I want to see for, they need a guy like this. He plays really good defense at second base. He's line drives. He's foul line to foul line. He has enough pop to hit it over someone's head. At least he's a switch hitter. He'll probably have a mid-teens strikeout rate going forward. But this is a guy that I think they could really use a player like him. He stole, I think, 20 bags this season. And he just hits. He's a guy that I could see hitting, 280, 290, maybe better. I mean, maybe he's a guy that just can. And I really like him. I think he's arguably their most underrated prospect.
All right, let's take a look at
my opinion. Yeah. So these were his couple doubles from last week.
Little Donovan Solano there.
Yeah, a little bit. But both from the right side this week. This was in Richmond for whoever was asking. He puts one down the left field line and then he says, all right, watch this. And then goes down the right field line. And it's just kind of a perfect example of this guy's approach. Like he just gets off good swings and hits a lot of liners.
Interesting. Yeah. And he's in Double-A. Did he do well in Eugene?
Yeah, I think he was hitting high 270s in Eugene. He went through a little bit of a slump, kind of like what we were talking earlier. I think had he just stayed there, he would have probably finished in the 280s, low 290s range. Because he had been hitting over 300 for a while, and then he went through a bit of a slump. And then as he started to come out of it, they went ahead and promoted him up to Double-A. And then he hit 313 in Double-A.
Wow. Okay. All right. Any other? Well, the season's over for Double-A, and it's over for Low A and High A right now, right? So it's just Triple-A left.
He's only 20.
Wow. Okay, that's
maybe
good.
maybe he's 21. I'd have to look. I think he's turning 21.
I'm wondering what
Yeah.
prospect let me take a look and see under Giants here. Let me just look and see what their
Thanks,
top.
Cliff.
What did Cliff say? Cool bat collection, Cody. Let me know if I could interest you in my
So
prompt purchase assignment. Hey,
I'm gonna pull the camera off. So
speaking of Cliff, you're having a night tonight like I had last night. Man, this is a wild 7-team dogfight, Cliff, in the NorCal sports fantasy baseball as it comes down to the last week and a half. Anybody could win this thing of 7 teams. It's kind of crazy. I think it's going to come down to whoever has the best day, the last day of the season. I really do. I think we're all bunched together, 7 of us within 7 of us. The live standings. If I pull this up for you guys here, come on, where are we going here? Okay,
with that, Mark. Sorry, my chats are showing up in the other stream for whatever reason. So I
live
trying to get more people for you.
Live fantasy sports. Look at the team. First team. I hate the Giants. Vince. He was all in on the Giants, and he just lost it when they. But Dilly has a jumps. Guys have been jumping anywhere between 7th to 2nd to 1st to 3rd to 5th. It's all over the board here. You see from 83.5. I'm changing my team name every day now just for the heck of it. Just I held first for about a month and I was clinging and I felt like, oh man, my pitching, everything's tanking, my hitting. So, but we're like anybody from 7th place to the top can win it. It's because we're changing numbers by at bats. Guy doesn't get a hit, you lose points in batting average. You drop 3 points. It's that crazy. So that's what's going on in the NorCal Sports Network fantasy football. Cliff says some. So those guys are maxing their positions. I think we should be able to get a top 3rd finish. Yeah.
I'm going to answer George's question really quick. He asked how Rainer Arias did. He played in the Complex League. Afterward, he did all right in the Complex League. Started slow because he was injured, I think, before. He sprained his wrist again, the same one he fractured last season. Came back from the injury. He looked pretty solid, but they did not bring him up to San Jose when the Complex League season ended. He's been there, as far as I know, since. I think he's going to be 18 next season, or maybe he'll be 19 next season. So I would imagine he'll start in San Jose. We'll see how he does. I'm looking forward to being able to see him full time. I think a lot of people have kind of I don't want to say soured. I don't think that's the right word, but people have cooled off on him a little bit because he hasn't been talked about as much. I think with the Bryce hype and a few of the other guys. But once we see him every day, that's my thing, is I need to be able to see him every day. And then someone earlier asked how Dakota Jordan was doing. He only got 7 at bats in San Jose, and then unfortunately, minor leagues, they don't really give any news as far as injuries.
He's the power guy from Mississippi, right?
Yeah, huge raw power, big speed. It looked like they were working on him on his base stealing a little bit. But yeah, he got injured, and I don't know what it was. Unfortunately, he just stopped playing after 2 games.
Too many injuries.
So,
and
then Tibbs did well in San Jose.
Good. Ben Bamboos. We covered this morning on our morning show. I brought the article up. I could bring it up again. I ripped Kawakami for this article, Ben. I thought it was very passive. Did you see it, Cody?
No, but it sounds like I'm going to be reading that before I go to bed tonight.
I'll pull it up here, guys. Let me pull this up for you guys. Let me just go into my email, and there it is. Pull that up, and now I can Oh, wait a minute. Do I have it? Yeah, I can do this right here. Okay, I'll pull it up right here, guys.
Mark, try and shop that Haniger bat around with Mariners fans. They love that guy, even though he's been bad this year.
Okay, can you guys see this article? No, that's not the one I want. Sorry, I got the wrong one. Let me take that one down. It's the one that Kawakami did. Last stage. This is it right here. Okay, here we go. Wait a minute. Why is that still popping up? Is this the Susan Slusser one that keeps popping up?
Yeah.
Not the one I want. Let me kill that. This is the one I want to kill. This is the one. Okay, why these are probably okay. That's the headline. I got the wrong one. Why these are probably you're gonna chuckle at this article because
is he still writing on the Athletic? I thought he stopped.
No, he left. He look at the headline. It's called the San Francisco
okay.
Standard.
Gotcha.
What is that? A new online deal?
New paper.
Okay. I thought this was I did not like this article at all. I thought it was very passively written, and we'll look it over. He says the top members of the Giants ownership group are probably working very diligently right now to try to find the right grounds to keep Farhan Zaidi as president of baseball operations beyond this disappointing season. They don't want to fire him. They want to identify the reasons to keep him. First of all, that's weak. The guy has had one winning season in 6. Okay. Why would you want to keep him okay. That's first. I'll make comments as I go along.
I think it's more directed. I feel like that's more of a pointed message at the Johnsons than anything. I agree. It could have been a little stronger there, but I do feel like that's kind of that's Kawakami kind of firing a shot off at the Johnsons. I think that's him saying like they want him, even though they might reluctantly have to dump him.
Okay. But at the tail end of the Giants' third consecutive failed season, it's getting harder to figure out what those reasons would be. I do believe the chairman, Greg Johnson, minority owner Buster Posey, and several other members of the ownership group would love to discover a compelling rationale to bring Zaidi back. I believe they plan for next season, not this one, to be the inflection point for Zaidi's tenure, which began in November of 2018 and has produced only one, albeit quite memorable playoff season. They hired Zaidi's close associate, Bob Melvin, as manager last offseason and announced a contract extension for Zaidi through the San Francisco Chronicle's John Shea reported last week that the guarantees for both men are through 25. Clearly, this was supposed to come to a head next season. But in big time sports and all endeavors, when you have a pretty firm idea that you'll have to move on from somebody in a year, you might as well do it now. Waiting on the inevitable just makes things worse, even if you don't really want to fire the executive. Even if, as I believe, Giants ownership signed off on just about everything Zaidi has done, precisely on the budget he's been given, even if he's gone about his job exactly as he said he'd do it almost 6 years ago, even if there's not really a clear-cut candidate to take his place, and there's zero guarantee that the next executive will do better. There's always an expiration date for mediocre tenures, though. There's always a clock running, a deadline. There's always a prove-it moment, and everything I've seen and heard tells me that the time probably has come and gone for Zaidi and the Giants. Okay, so far we're good. Zaidi is a well-meaning and very smart. He's not the most popular guy in the franchise. He's not a terror in any sense. He's ridiculously smart. He's sensible. He's maybe too sensible, too disdainful of some of the more romantic aspects of this sport. Of course, Giants fans are some of the most romantic and nostalgic in the world, and they back that up with their pocketbooks. They have seen their beloved team climb to the top of the mountain 3 times in the last 14 years and regularly fill up their beautiful ballpark. They want to feel that again. They want to watch great and entertaining baseball. Yes, that is true. They want an executive who feels all of that too and who lets them know he's feeling it, which Zaidi won't do. It's not who he is. I respect him for that, and I do too. That's pretty much who he is. But for such a cool figure to gain the trust and love of these fans over the years, Zaidi had to pile up victories and big seasons. He had to do it more than build that 21 team that won 107 games. He had to keep doing it. He had to show fans he knew how to keep doing it. And here the Giants sit 73 and 78, now 74 and 78. Okay. Zaidi may have run out of time. It's just hard to see how this goes for another season, another offseason, another spring, and potentially another empty fall. But yes, Zaidi deserves the same kind of sensible analysis about his tenure and his future that he has given to every baseball decision he's made in this job. You have to list the reasons he should keep his job into 25, then decide if those reasons really stand up against practical logic. Here's how it worked. I worked it out. 6 reasons to keep Zaidi. Number 1, the Giants owners hired him because of his analytical approach. If they fired him, they'd likely hire someone just as analytically inclined, okay? But why are similarly focused front offices in Milwaukee, Kansas City, and Detroit, run by Scott Harris, Zaidi's former general manager, among others, doing so much better than Zaidi's Giants? I don't think use of analytics is the issue. The Giants are always going to want to be heavily into analytics. If you aren't, you'll be left in the dust in the new MLB era. If the Giants move on from Zaidi, they need to find somebody who does what he's done for 6 years, just better. Who can find superstars in the draft? Who can maybe emote a time or two along with the fan base? A reason to keep Zaidi, he has made adjustments, especially going into this year, as encouraged by Johnson. He built a roster that needs fewer platoons and openers with a lean toward a more stable starting rotation. Zaidi's been more flexible than I thought he'd be. He was happy to hire Melvin, but it seemed pretty clear that firing Kapler last year wasn't a pleasant move for him. Zaidi might argue that he's been too flexible lately. But do the Giants owners, and especially those looking to Posey for direction, really want a top executive who has to be nudged into doing these things? 2, much of what has weighed down the Giants the past 3 years has been bad luck. They've had a big name stars turning them down or flunking the medical exam, first-round picks getting injured, young players showing promise early and then fizzling. I don't know of more than 2 or 3 important Zaidi moves over the last 6 years that were clear mistakes, but avoiding huge errors is only one part of the report card. You can't win unless you hit big on multiple moves year after year, and Zaidi just hasn't been able to do that. Maybe all this would look different if $113 million man Jung-Hoo Lee hadn't messed up his shoulder in May, or the Giants had signed Blake Snell in January, not March. But I don't think it would have changed much.
No, it wouldn't, because Elliot Ramos would still be rotting in Sacramento, or he'd be a platoon bat at best.
Yep. 3, you never want to make a big decision based on a fan popularity contest. Zaidi is deeply unpopular among vast segments of the fan base, but some of that is irrational and has been in ugly evidence even back to the 107 win season. This is basically where I've been situated on the Zaidi question for years. He's too talented for Giants ownership to discard him on the whims of the lunatic fringe. Okay, that remark right there, that's Kawakami showing his arrogance that he's better than everybody else. This is what I have issues with. Kawakami.
No one thinks. Most people I don't think that Farhan is just a complete idiot. I think he's spineless. I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he's got the guts to make the big decisions and pull the trigger on these.
Yeah.
And the other issue I have with him, aside from that, is just his talent evaluation is the issue.
Correct.
They can argue that he operated within the Giants' budget of the ownership, that the owners gave him all we want. But the reality is 3 of his first 4 drafts were pretty much whiffs, entirely. So it's like, not even getting into the lack of international talent that he brought in during that same timeline. I mean, Rainer Arias is like the first guy that we're really high on, and Reckley's he's showing a little bit of potential. He's finally in San Jose, but
Right.
we haven't even produced like a top international prospect in his tenure either. So it's like, what, I don't care if you operated within their budget and the owners gave you a strict budget. Like, you're not acquiring talent internally. That's a problem. So.
Absolutely. So and the lunatic fringe comment, meaning people who, so Joe Shasky, guys like that are lunatic fringe because they want to discard him because they're not happy with the way the team looks. I mean, all you got to do is look at the product on the field. They're boring as hell. Not just that they're not winning, they're boring when they do win.
Yeah, Ben brings up the Bart, trading Bart as an example. Like that's the thing where I'd bet you that, and I know you probably agree with this, but like I'd bet anybody that I bet you Tim Kawakami believes that that's a move that wasn't a clear mistake because, you couldn't have told that he was going to do it, even though there were signs that this could be coming for anybody that paid attention to him the last couple, last season, and especially where his contact rates were improving, his strikeout rates were going down. And all of a sudden, he didn't hit for any power, but the thought that the power just completely disappeared. Like, if you're putting the bat on the ball more frequently, at some point the power is going to show again. Like, he had too much of it.
Right.
And
exactly.
Now it is.
Yeah, so, exactly. We saw it, and we saw it in spurts, but he was never given the full opportunity to just play.
Yeah.
Okay, so we move on from this lunatic fringe. He says, but unpopular executives eventually have to win and keep winning. They have to accumulate tremendous talent, and then they'll be popular. Agree. If the Giants keep Zaidi in charge into next season, maybe it turns around. But it'll be hard without a superstar in the lineup and questions throughout the roster. And it'll be even harder knowing that Zaidi is a lame duck president, and heaven knows how tense it could get in 2025 and how bleak it might feel at Oracle. Attendance has ticked up this season. It's important to note the Giants are 10th in Major League Baseball, averaging 33,000 a game. They were 17th in 23, averaging 30,866. Those are important numbers for Giants ownership, not just in raw dollars, but in proof of fans' sustained faith. It's, you know what, Tim, that's a false narrative because the Giants gave away a ton of seats. They were giving you 2-for-1 deals. They were giving you $5.01. Everything was discounted this year because they wanted to show that there was still fans there. They were trying to bring people in, figuring you get them in the stadium, they'll spend money elsewhere. The Giants figured out that if they charged full price, instead of 33,000 a game, they would have averaged about 20,000 a game. I'm totally confident of that because people came because the prices were cheap. But then he says, but I can't imagine the prospect of 40 or 50 games just like the 25,000, 22,000, and 22,000 announced. Yeah, where there was really half that in the stadium. The Giants, number 4, aren't far from being right back in the playoff race. They have potential superstar Bryce Eldridge racing through the farm system, and once again will have money to spend this offseason. But is Zaidi the guy they want making those decisions? I don't think so. Wouldn't a top free agent shy away from the Giants if the guy who's trying to sign him likely will be gone in 9 months? 5, Melvin made it clear.
I don't think they actually care. I think they're going to take the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Puts a buttload in front of them.
I think they care more who's on the team and around versus who's running it. Yeah. Melvin made it clear that he jumped from the Padres because he trusted Zaidi from their days together with the A's. Firing Zaidi could destabilize the clubhouse too. I think Melvin is a good manager. He has the respect of the players, starting with Matt Chapman, easily their best position player this season and now signed to a long-term deal. But Melvin almost certainly could adapt to a new top baseball exec if he had to. And if he can't, or if the new exec wants a different manager, Melvin's contract isn't that hard to exit. 6, even with Posey clearly moving into a position of major influence, Zaidi could stay on as a day-to-day decision maker. Well, there's a reason we all noted Andrew Baggerly's story this week in the Athletic detailing Posey's firsthand role. And yeah, there's a little conflict going between Slusser and Baggerly. And but
I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle.
It is. This happens a lot. Guys from the ownership, it was probably something very simple like, hey, what is it going to take to get the deal finished? Well, we want a no trade clause. Okay,
Hey, great, just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
In that 6th year, like maybe they had worked it to 5, and Zaidi wasn't going to budge, and Posey might have just been like, dude, just do it. Like,
yeah. At that point, the money's going to mean nothing to these guys. $25 million in 6 years. These guys are so wealthy, and they're going to get wealthier with the situation with Oakland leaving and all that.
And was 6 years ideal? No, but if it does lead to more, stars or anything like that actually coming,
it's if 2 years are wasted, the last 2 years, $50 million cost. If the $50 million is the cost of business to bring in a couple stars, so be it. Yeah,
exactly.
So one thing the Giants can do is burn money. They have it.
Yeah, they can
would
afford
a Posey's ID tandem work? Possibly, if both want it to work, but I think it'd be awkward. If the Giants turn this franchise over to Posey in a significant manner, they should let him pick his own top lieutenant. And if it happens that way, I think they will. I don't go lightly down this path. You never should blithely. How do you pronounce that word?
I think you got it right the first time, but
blithely write about anybody losing their job. And I sure don't want to do that with Zaidi. I've always enjoyed my conversations with Zaidi dating back to his days as an A's executive. I've had him on my podcast many times. My opinion in this column has nothing to do with Zaidi not choosing to appear on my podcast lately. I saw him at Oracle over the weekend. He said he'd come on this week, but that hasn't happened. And I understand. If he had come on, there would have been some tense moments, I imagine. I would guess that he had done a few media appearances recently, in part because he feels increasingly uncomfortable in this situation, in this role for such a popular franchise. The whole thing is uncomfortable. Maybe everybody will relieve when it's over. Okay, I've read this a second time through. It's not as bad as I read it the first time. The first time I was thinking he was very light on it, but now I see what he's doing. He's just pointing reasons out why, the 6 reasons, what was it, to keep him, why they could keep him, and then
he gave the counters to him in most of them. Like he even said, he's like, yeah, but
so it wasn't as bad as I thought. I kind of jumped on it early because I was in a big hurry this morning. I only had a few minutes, and Bub Brad, I'm not sure about when Farhan was in the hospital. Sounds like he's out. Hopefully everything's fine with him. So we'll see. But I think the whole thing with this move is just either, I don't know what the contract language is, if he's contracted with the club or if he's contracted as president of baseball operations only. And, if they can move him to another position in the club, maybe he takes that, maybe he doesn't. If they can't, he gets paid and he moves on. No ill will toward him. He's a nice man. He's just not cut out to run this level of an organization. Farhan could probably do what he's doing he would have been perfect with the A's, actually.
I think the Dodgers would hire him back in like 2 seconds.
Seriously?
As a number 2? Yeah. Or number 3, whatever you want to call him there.
As a number 3.
I
think he works good. He would be good as a 3 guy.
Yeah, like he's really good at uncovering guys that are like undervalued that can fill out a roster. I mean, finding guys like Yaz and Wade and Tyro and it's some of these other guys that he's just kind of, almost feels like he pulls them off the scrap heap and they end up being solid players. And, allegedly he did that with Muncy at one point. He was like, go get this guy.
Great in Pawtucket. I think that's the Red Sox AAA team.
Yeah. I think he'd be a solid, just, number 2 or number 3, the guy that's not making the final decisions.
Right. Yeah. The guy that's not making decisions. Yeah. Have him offer up the information that he comes up with and present that. Yeah. Not present it and say Hill starts in center field tonight and bats second.
Yeah. Like he he comes across as a guy that is just scared to make a big decision. Like
Yeah.
Sabian took so many swings for the fences with
Right.
the Matt Williams trade, the even trades like Freddie Sanchez, where looking back, it was like, that was a slam dunk because
Right.
Tim Alderson flamed out like a year later. But
Yes.
people forget there was a legitimate discussion on who was a better prospect, Alderson or Mad Bum at the
Right.
time. I mean, the Pence trade, and then he had some blow up in his face, the Przynski deal, the Beltran deal, which I still will defend that one to my grave. But it's like he just was always undeterred to make that big move, and
Correct.
I just want to see someone that is willing to, even if it blows up on him, as long as it doesn't involve trading Eldridge. Don't trade that guy. Anyone else?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Don't trade that guy. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, you guys ready for my trade? And we can talk about this and alter it a little bit.
Yeah,
But
let's see it.
this is kind of an interesting trade, and let me explain it to you. First of all, here baseball. Okay, we're trading with the Houston Astros, and here's the deal.
My man, I love this guy.
Who? You love who?
Tucker.
Okay, here's the deal. Kyle Tucker's on his last year before entering free agency. Okay. Giants have loads of money. They can get him here in a trade and then sign him to just a buku deal. He's only 27. He's a stud. And I actually had, instead of Reggie Crawford, but somehow it slipped, I had Grant McCray in there, about the same value as Crawford. But more I think about it, Astros might want a pitching prospect in this deal. It's a little bit of an overpay according to the trade analyzer, but remember, Alex Bregman is a free agent this year. So the Astros will be without a third baseman. You saw what Casey Schmidt, if you watched the game tonight, what he could do defensively. And he also got a key 2-run single. And let me tell you why I like Schmidt. He's obviously not going to play third base with the Giants. Okay, that's his natural position. He is a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. In fact, he made one play tonight that I don't even know if Chapman could have saved that run. How far Casey got, how quickly he dove. Casey's cat-like quick with his feet.
I've been telling people all year when watching Sacramento games, like the Chapman runs on, when Chapman's like running towards third base and he makes the throw kind of, I almost want to say across his body, but just he makes the throw across to first. And I'm like, and everybody like freaks out about it. And I'm like, I see that play weekly out of Schmidt. Like anybody that watches Sacramento, they've been seeing Schmidt make these plays all season, but he has never gotten to play at his best spot in the majors, which just, it takes me off because I think people would have, pre-Chapman, if they would have just put him at third, people would have been like losing it over this guy's defense. And I think people would have been a little more patient with the bat had they been watching him play like that defensively.
Yeah, if they could see it, but they've never played him at third base.
No.
So this trade, what it means is that Tucker's value will drop as it gets closer to the All-Star break. So maybe you give a little bit more, maybe even have to throw in another player, maybe a Grant McCray added to that gets it done. But
you might honestly have to put Whisenhunt in there because I have a feeling they're going to want a top guy.
Okay.
And unfortunately,
maybe,
just the shine on Matos and Schmidt has probably fallen off a little bit. And Crawford's just too injury prone. Like if I'm the Astros, I want no part of that.
All right, let me see if I can.
Me.
If I added Whisenhunt, he's got a 9.7 value. So add 10 to that. Maybe you have to add that, take him off of Crawford, and it's still a 30 to, but I think this is the type of trade that the Giants need to be bold with. They need to go out and get a star. Okay. They cannot just, and go after it boldly, make the move. Maybe Patilla could get that done.
Yeah.
Maybe Patilla has some say in there in the Astros organization. Look, I think Casey Schmidt, I put this out. A lot of people think this is crazy, but I think if you played Casey Schmidt every day at third base, I don't think he would be that far off of Chapman. I don't think his home runs would be 25 or whatever, 27, wherever Chapman ends up. But I think Casey can hit 20 home runs. And I think he could drive, I think he could hit close to 240. And I think he could give you 80 plus RBIs. Casey, he got a lot of RBIs at the start of this year in Sacramento. He had over 30 RBIs in 30 games. He was driving in everything. So I think Casey hits you 20 homers, drives in. I really don't think his production's that much more different. The difference is Matt Chapman has two things, maybe three going for him. One, he's a veteran. Two, he plays every day. He's proven that he can play every day. He shows up. Three, he's a great clubhouse leader. Casey doesn't have any of those three yet, okay? So that's why Chapman is loved and is valuable to a team, is because he shows up, he plays, he hustles, he's a leader, and all those things are intangibles that are very important to a club.
And he's well regarded around the league with other players. And
right.
We'll see if that does, kind of like we mentioned earlier, we'll see if it does impact people coming. But he's very well respected around the game. So maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but it's a thing.
Yeah. A guy called Ed says, can we do a trade value with Toronto where we absorb Gosman in his contract and then include Bichette or Vlad?
I personally wouldn't want Gosman back at this point. Not when we're staring Robbie Ray's contract down already. And we'll see about Snell. My gut says he's gone, but I kind of also get the impression that Snell wants to be on the West Coast. And the reality is he's from Seattle. He would love to play in Seattle. That's all he's wanted, but the Mariners aren't going to pony up for him, and he knows that. So, especially with their pitching staff.
I heard he's interested in San Diego again, maybe. I don't know.
I think he's interested in anyone on the West Coast that'll pay him what he wants.
Yeah.
For the years.
What do you think? Who would you take? I mean, of course, you'd want Vlad, but I don't think Toronto's going to deal him. Do you?
I don't think Toronto wants to deal him. I think they would be quicker to move Bichette.
That's what I think. Bichette.
I also think if they can't get, I think Toronto, similar to how they chased Ohtani, I think Toronto's going to chase Soto, and they're gonna try and throw the big ginormo deal in front of them. And if they pull him in, maybe they'll be more inclined to give, just cave to whatever Vladdy wants, basically. But if they fail to reel in the big fish again, like they did last year, which all signs point to that probably being the case, I think they're going to reach a point with Vladdy where they've seriously got to consider it.
Toronto's awful. The Giants are actually their most valued player in a trade right now for the Blue Jays is Spencer Horwitz. The Giants' values actually moved up a little bit. If you guys remember, they didn't have hardly anybody in the 20s. Right now, Logan Webb's value, just to show you guys something. Remember I told you about Webb? He was a few weeks ago, his value was 93. Just a few weeks ago. Look what Logan Webb's value is now, 74. I'm telling you that you could have got a lot for Webb. He's got too many innings on that arm that scares me.
I still think you'd get a massive King's ransom if you moved him in the offseason.
You still could.
Yeah, I don't think his value realistically actually went down around the game. I like this as like a general, but I think Webb with how much of his deal and it's team friendly,
Oh,
how
that's why
young
it's
he is,
value. Yeah,
he
that's
would
why
just
it's
get what the
yeah.
Giants could basically just get what they wanted.
Look at Ryan Walker's value jump, 26.7 surplus. It was down in the low
Thank you, Bobby.
single digits. Kyle Harrison's value, Fitzgerald's up a little bit. Duvall's dropped significantly. He was in the 30s at the beginning of the season. Patrick Bailey's is held. Ramos
like what is
up.
Vladdy's value on there? Does it
Vladdy's,
show?
yeah, it shows. Oops, what did I just do here?
Because I think realistically, even if this says Horowitz has more value, I don't think anybody is actually giving more up for Spencer Horowitz than they
right. Yeah, exactly.
If they made both available,
they're saying 9.2.
Yeah.
I think no one's giving up.
I'll just trade him Wizenhunt straight up. Done.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know how accurate this thing is. It's a lot of people swear by it.
I feel like it's probably good in some respects, but the reality is with like true game-changing superstar talents, like they always have more value than than this, because no matter what, like a guy like Vladdy, I'm just going to use him as an example. Like if he put up his type of production in the Giants lineup, like it does elevate those around you. It's not just the production that you get out of him. It's the impact. We saw it with Posey for years. He held that lineup together where everybody was better around him because of his presence. You see it with the truly like the great players around the game where their presence in a lineup changes everything. And you can't measure that just through their WAR and their WRC plus and whatever analytics. Like it's what the Curry, it reminds me of like the Curry stat where it's like the gravity for basketball, when it's
right.
how much closer to him and like how much more space it creates. It's just similar to that. Like you can't measure that in baseball, but it is apparent when Jeff Kent hits behind Barry for a year and they intentionally walk Barry because they're like, no, we're not facing this guy. And then Kent goes insane and wins an MVP. Actually, I think he might have been hitting in front, but you know what I mean? It's like the presence of these guys changes things.
Yeah, so much so. Well, we'll see. We'll get more into this come off season. We'll talk more trades and when things actually start to heat up. But it's good to kind of talk about certain guys. I whether any of these things happen, they're not likely to happen. These things get tossed out there all the time in the ethosphere of the social media. Nothing. I see them come up all the time, flashes, and I don't even open and read them anymore because I know they're just someone like myself's thoughts, and they're just like meaningless. It's exactly. Like, hey, Dan from NorCal Sports thinks this could happen. Well, yeah, and it's never been discussed by anybody other than my own mind.
Farhan's like, who?
Yeah, so none of these things ever take place. We all talk about it, but it's fun. I think you want to look for guys that are the Giants. Ideally, you want to get a guy that has 2 or 3 years of control, but then you got to pay a ton for that. And the Giants don't have the assets to do that. The Giants have, if you look at the Giants' assets, okay, to actually have value that people really value, well, Logan Webb and Bryce Eldridge are the first two names that probably comes up from any executive's mouth. We're interested. Oh yeah, we're interested. Well, into conversation. Okay. How about Ramos? Okay. How about Bailey? Yeah. How about Harrison? And then it gets a little tough. And then it's, probably guys like Wizenhunt and maybe a little talk on, whether it be Birdsong or, the days of Luciano and Matos coming up in conversations, probably not that much anymore.
Yeah.
And
I think they'd have some value, but I just they're not going to headline a deal.
Right.
At this
And so
point,
the Giants,
unless
I
something happens.
just named you guys that really are about the only thing. So you've got to find guys and take risk on guys who are going to enter free agency and go for the, go for the 1 year change. Go for a guy like Kyle Tucker. This year, before, if you hadn't signed a Chapman, it would have been a guy like, at the trade deadline, maybe it would have been a guy or in the offseason, maybe it would have been like an Alex Bregman or something like that. But Bregman now has already got his salary locked up. He knows he's getting at least 6 years, 150 from somebody, as he's better than Matt Chapman production-wise, and he's won championships. And that's going to play a lot. He's a year or two younger. He's not as good defensively, but he's much better offensively. And if he can find a place that has a short porch down the left field line, like Oracle would have been a great place. He's a dead pull hitter. He's a guy that's going to hit you home runs down the left field line. But he's going to get, because his agent's Boris. So he's going to get 6 and 150 from somebody because that's already out there. It's signed. So Boris got a double move. He goes, Alex Bregman probably sent him a bottle of champagne after that contract was signed by Chapman. Said, thank you, Scott. We know my starting point. So
yeah, I love Tucker though. That would be an awesome pickup.
Tucker would be the probably one of the number one guys I would go after. You put him in right field. You put Ramos in left field. You put Lee in center. If you want to keep Yaz becomes a fourth outfielder. He could, he can come in, pinch hit. He could late, whatever. You can do stuff like that. But Tucker would be great in right field. He would change the lineup. And then maybe you go after maybe you do go after a Vladdy who's going to be a free agent. And you just go for, maybe the plan would be trade some of our guys. Let's build a star-studded team through trades, and let's go sign some free agents in pitching because pitchers love to come here. Let's get the pitchers. We'll trade for the guys, and let's hope we can strike lightning in a bottle, and that we can sign either Guerrero or a Tucker to a contract during the season because they find that the place is rocking like it was in 2010
They've
through
never
16.
had a problem re-signing guys.
No.
Once they get them here, they usually love it.
Yeah. I think that's the answer, guys, is go throw what you got to throw without
Do you think this is attainable, though? If they were willing to do it. I think Adames is attainable, though.
Yeah.
That is a guy that has not had a problem in this part.
Think about this. You go get Kyle Tucker. You go get Willie Adames. You go get some pitching. Yeah. If Bryce is ready to play first base, you bring him up. Maybe
they didn't try to re-sign Beltran. He never got a contract offer from the Giants. Beltran said as much.
Yeah.
So they hardly even reached out to him.
So Turd Ferguson asked this question. I'll let Cody answer that because he's followed him quite a bit.
Does Eldridge have untouchable status? For instance, right now, would you trade Eldridge for Corbin Carroll straight up? I mean, Carroll's the only kind of player I'm trading Eldridge for. Like if I'm going to, I think he has as close to untouchable status as possible, with the exception being like if I'm trading for a legitimate young superstar under contract for a long time, that's the only type of deal I would probably do it. Otherwise, it's an absolute no for me.
Ben Bamboo says, you planning for Eldridge to come up in 25? Well, that was discussed earlier. And if he's going to go to Arizona Fall League, if he rakes there and he gets a non-roster, he will get a non-roster invite to the Giants spring training camp. And if he tears up spring training or shows that it's not too big for him, major league pitching, I think Cody is saying he thinks they could start him day one next year.
Wouldn't shock me. I think it's a matter of when, not if, he gets called up next season.
Yeah.
If everything goes right, you could see him on the opening day. If they decide he needs more time, so be it. I think he ends up, barring an injury, I believe he ends up playing in the majors next season at some point. Ben, Farhan says a lot of things and he doesn't follow through. So he can say late next season as a, that he could say late next season as kind of an expectation, but I think if Eldridge forced the issue, he's not going to hesitate to just play him. And there's an incentive to play him on the opening day roster. For those of you that aren't aware, there is the player promotion incentive,
right?
Where if they either win the rookie of the year and they're on, top prospect lists, which he's pretty unanimously on all of the top prospect lists and pretty highly rated. If you have them on your opening day roster and they win the rookie of the year, or I think even if they get votes for other awards, you can get different incentives. I know the rookie of the year one, if you get it, you basically get the picks right after the first round. So like last season, the this last draft, the Diamondbacks and Orioles had the 33rd and 34th pick in the draft because of Carroll and Gunnar Henderson. So
very good.
There is a reason.
All right. Well, Cody, I think that does it for us tonight. Great takes as usual from you. Good to have you on again. We'll do this again next Wednesday night, guys. The last Wednesday night of the regular season. We'll carry it through the playoffs. That should be fun, the playoffs. In fact, next week, we'll make some playoff predictions. Let's plan on that. Let's make some playoff predictions. I think it's going to come down to maybe in both wild cards, it's going to come down to the last couple of days of the season. We may not know who our wild card teams. I mean, Arizona's hanging on with the Mets and Arizona are tied, and Atlanta's right behind them. One of those teams is going to get left out.
The Mets are a good team when Lindor's playing like this.
Yeah.
He had been so disappointing for like the first year plus of his deal there.
Right.
He has turned it around. Like that's the Cleveland Lindor that they're getting right now.
Right. Yeah, they're getting Cleveland Lindor. Yeah. So should be exciting. I think somebody asked me about a week ago, who do I think is the team that gets left out? And I'm trying to remember who it was, but anyway, I think I said Atlanta. Just all the injuries. I think it's going to be tough for them to overcome all of it. And the Mets are kind of playing like that team that's got some destiny written on them or something. Yeah. I don't know. They're winning some games late.
Good.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks for joining NorCal Sports Network. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. It would be greatly appreciated. We got a lot of people over on X or Twitter watching. Come on over to YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. Our subscribers are growing. Go over to Cody's channel, Even Year Dynasty Show, and give him a like if you're watching now. It's being simulcast there. Go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe button to Cody's channel. If you're here on NorCal Sports Network, Cody does a lot of Giant stuff, a little more in-depth stuff on the minor leagues than we cover here on NorCal Sports. That's why we like to have him come on over here, and we get the benefit of his time that he put into it. So we appreciate that. And so go ahead and support Cody's channel. Please do that. Even Year Dynasty Show. Get him some subs up there. And we'll be back tomorrow. Giants have an early morning game. Go for the sweep You look at those hats over there. I put every hat on except Baltimore and Kansas City this year. You can't tell me I'm not going to wear an Orioles hat all year, that the Giants are going to sweep them. That would be kind of hysterical, but we'll see.
The Giants are going to sweep both out of nowhere.
Yeah, watch them win 6 straight. Yeah, they see. So, guys, we'll come on tomorrow night though, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. A little bit of Giants talk, and probably be Lou Marston and myself. And until tomorrow night, you guys have a great one. Cody, any final words you got?
No, I'll be doing a live on Friday, and I have a player that is confirmed prospect that's going to come on hopefully next week. I got to reach out to him on this weekend. He told me,
okay,
so.
Good. Maybe we can
stay tuned.
Okay, good. Player prospect, awesome. All right, there we go. So go check it out, Even Your Dynasty Show. Again, NorCal Sports Network. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hit the like button. Thanks for subscribing. We appreciate you. Have a great night, everybody.